Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. And I do want to talk about a player that I have certainly talked a lot about over the last couple weeks. And by the way, we'll get to some of your questions, comments in a second. Anybody, obviously we'll prioritize super chat. So anybody drops a super chat, we'll get to that first. We'll get to some questions in a minute. But what I want to do now, I want to spend a few minutes talking about a guy that we have certainly talked about a lot here on the Aaron Torres Pod and Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel over the last couple weeks. That is a guard, that is a player named Lamar Wilkerson, okay? So Lamar Wilkerson, 6'5" guard. We just talked about Arkansas. Originally, he is from Ashdown, Arkansas. And he's kind of an interesting story because he was a player that entered the portal very early on in the cycle, okay? And so it felt like early on, enters the portal, he's obviously linked to Arkansas, whatever. Then it goes quiet. And then just the last probably 10 days, it just felt like that recruitment ramped up big time, okay? About a week or so ago, he cuts his list down to 4, says, I'm going to visit Auburn, Ole Miss, Indiana, and Kentucky. He ends up visiting Indiana and Kentucky, then decides to cancel the next 2 visits, says he'll make a commitment this week. I will be honest, because I know I'm going to get crushed in the comments. I made a video last night because I felt like everything was trending towards Kentucky. Final visit is Kentucky. Cancels his final few visits. Seems like he's having a great time at Keeneland Racetrack with Mark Pope and all those horses. Well, yeah, I was wrong because, probably about 3 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday, Lamar Wilkerson, guard, Sam Houston State, commits to, drum roll please, it ain't the Kentucky Wildcats like I thought. Lamar Wilkerson gets a commitment to the Indiana Hoosiers. How about Darian Devries? I think there is no doubt that this is the biggest commitment of the Darian Devries era so far. Let's break it all down. I should mention, by the way, like all of these other teams, we do have a Torres on Indiana page, Torres on IU. My buddy Caleb, Indiana student, he's just a freshman. He's helping me with that Indiana page, Torres on Indiana, for all of your late-breaking Indiana news. Let's go ahead and get to this commitment because this is really big, okay? So first off, Lamar Wilkerson, we've talked about him. But you talk about a dude that I think is going to step in and have immediate success at the high major level in college basketball next year. This kid is it, okay? 6'5", averaged 20.5 points per game. By the way, make sure you're following our Torres on Indiana page. 20.5 points per game. And this stat is the one that blows me away. 44.5% shooting from 3. 44.5% shooting from 3. That is insane. Now, it's worth noting, as other people have pointed out, and I think accurately, this isn't a kid that just stands behind the three-point line, but he did take, and it's worth noting here as well, 7.5 three-pointers per game last year, okay? So it's one thing you shoot 44.5% from 3, and you take 24 on the entire season, or you take 31 on the entire season. Lamar Wilkerson took almost 8 per game, and as I said, a grand total of 107 on the, or 245 on the season, and he made 44.5% of them. So the dude is a pure bucket. I said it as soon as he entered the portal. He reminds me of Chaz Lanier. Mid-major guy, one great year of college basketball. To his credit, in this world, he can transfer up. And now he's an Indiana Hoosier. Listen, first of all, like I said, I owe Hoosiers fans an apology. Who's your daddy? Whatever. Slap Torres across the face because he was dead wrong on this one, okay? But listen, this is a big one for Darian Devries, okay? And of course, whenever, other schools lose a guy, they paid more money, they paid this, they paid that. What I thought was interesting was Lamar Wilkerson saying, if I went to Kentucky, he did an interview with Field of 68, if I went to Kentucky, I'd be just another guy. I want to be the missing piece at Indiana. And so the one thing I will say, in that reaction video to on Monday about Lamar Wilkerson, the one thing I did say was pretty straightforward, is I said, I think at Kentucky, he's the final piece, but I said, I think at Indiana, he's probably the most important piece. because you look at how Darian Devries wants to play, okay? So first of all, I don't think last year was necessarily the best reflection of how Darian Devries wants to play. He was at West Virginia last year. I don't think he really had the resources to succeed there. And not resources in a negative way, but, he had to build a roster on the fly last year without Indiana's resources. And he put together a really good team that probably should have been in the NCAA tournament, but was one that only shot 33% from behind the three-point arc. And so part of it was, his son gets hurt, Tucker DeVries, who we'll talk about in a minute. The other is that you kind of take a chance on some guards, and some of them work out and some of them don't. But the three-point shooting, I don't think was where they wanted it to be a season ago. And so I bring it up because fast forward, you look at the team that he is putting together now, they have a chance to be really good, okay? Putting aside Lamar Wilkerson, Tucker DeVries, his son, is coming in. We talked about him when Darian Devries got the job. Listen, I know there's all sorts of talk about what happened at West Virginia. Was he really hurt? Why didn't he play? Blah, 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 blah. I have not gotten any truth to rumors that he basically tanked because he knew his dad was getting the Indiana job or his dad shut him down or whatever. I don't know the truth. What I do know is when he is on the floor, this dude is a baller, okay? 2 years ago at Drake, when he was there with his dad, averaged 21.5 points per game, 37% three-point shooting. This past year was averaging 15 points per game on 47% three-point shooting. And it wasn't like he was doing it against stiffs. 26 points against Arizona in the battle for Atlantis, 16 points against Gonzaga in the battle for Atlantis. And this was a guy that, like I said, shooting a blistering 47% from three, 8 3-pointers made against Arizona in his second to last game playing. So you have Tucker DeVries, 6'7", coming in, playing with this team. The guy that I love, and we've talked about him a lot, Reed Bailey. Okay, so Reed Bailey, if you remember, by the way, doesn't that sound just like an Indiana name? There was Damon Bailey, and there was, I guess, Neil Reed. We don't want to talk about that one. But Reed Bailey, okay? So Reed Bailey was at Davidson. 6'10", by the way. 18.5 points per game, 6 rebounds per game. At 6'10", shot 41.5%. So we mentioned this a few weeks ago, okay? What stands out to me about Reed Bailey is, first of all, remember the story that Steph Curry was hired as the assistant GM at Davidson? There was a lot of talk that it was basically to retain this guy. Basically, they were like, hey, we need some help raising money and getting some money in this program so that we can keep this guy. He ends up hitting the portal. His recruitment was pretty quiet. You don't really know who was going after him. But we're talking about a big man who averaged 18.8 points per game, 41% shooting from three. And I think he has a chance to be really, really, really good. Indiana has also added Connor Enright, who played for Darian Devries 2 years ago at Drake, was at DePaul this past year. And I think the cool part is they're not done. Could they be in the mix for Elijah Freeman, superstar D2 player that's transferring up? I think Tennessee might be in the mix there as well. Couple other guys. But the point I'm trying to make is you start to see how this team is coming together. It's hard not to like the pieces that are in place. Tucker DeVries, was 21 points per game when healthy last year. 37% three-point shooter, 47% this year. Reed Bailey, 18.5 points per game, 41% three-point shooter. Now you add Lamar Wilkerson to the mix, 44.5% from three. It's a pretty darn good team. And I'll say this, you start looking around the Big Ten. Listen, the top of the Big Ten is going to be really good. UCLA is going to be good. Purdue's going to be good. Michigan is certainly going to be good. I would love to know what their NIL budget is right now. But there's a lot of ground in the middle and the bottom of the Big Ten where Minnesota's starting over the new coach. Northwestern is whatever. Michigan State, what are they in this NIL world? I know they're coming off an Elite Eight, but what are they in this NIL world? You think about the rest of the Big Ten. Love Coach Muss at USC, but they're trying to figure things out. Oregon, Washington, it's much the same. I think there are going to be a lot of wins to be had in this Big Ten if you can finish out this roster strong. So I think that's the cool part. That's the part that I'm most excited about, is to see how Darian Devries finishes things out, because I still think there are a lot of spots. There are a lot of spots to be filled. And I think the big thing right now, you got to get a point guard, right? You have shooting on the wing. You have size down low. You have shooting with your big guys. But the big question for me is, can you go ahead and find a point guard? Can you go ahead and get that next guy? But I'll tell you what, Lamar Wilkerson, man, he is an awesome player, and this is a celebration for Indiana. I don't think it's hyperbole to say this is the biggest commitment that you've gotten. Adds so much, going to step in, be expected to contribute right away. This is huge. This is good. This is big news for Indiana. And Darian Devries, to me, listen, I'm updating my top 25 as we speak. I think Indiana is probably a piece away from being right in the conversation as a top 25 team going into next year. Got to get it done, but this is the biggest piece yet.